There are moments in life where the world feels like a stage where every person, every object, and every word spoken seems almost scripted, as if the universe is not outside of you, but inside of your mind. You stare at your reflection and wonder, am I the only one here? You walk through crowded streets, yet something feels hollow, like you're surrounded by beautifully painted illusions. Characters, not people. Backdrops, not places. You question whether this life, this world, is just a projection of your consciousness. That is the gateway to solipsism, not a philosophy of arrogance or narcissism, as some mistake it to be, but a code of system, a lens through which reality is no longer taken for granted, where the self becomes the axis, and the universe becomes subjective. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't madness. This is what happens when the soul gets quiet long enough to feel the edges of reality melt. When you realize that every joy you've experienced, every heartbreak, every storm that passed through your life was filtered through the lens of you, your perception, your awareness, your existence. So what if no one else is real? What if love, grief, memory, and time are all just echoes within the cathedral of your mind? What if God is you? That's where this journey begins. But don't be mistaken, this isn't about being right. This is about unfolding. We will dive into a strange and beautiful truth, one that's uncomfortable, poetic, isolating, yet liberating. This is not a lesson. This is not a sermon. This is an invitation to sit quietly with a mirror and ask, what if I am the only one? I once looked into a stranger's eyes and saw something familiar, a flicker of pain I've never spoken aloud, a shadow of loneliness I thought only I carried. And for a second, I wondered, are you even real? Or are you a mirror? That's the first fracture, the first subtle crack in the walls of assumed reality. The moment you stop automatically believing that everyone else around you is a complete universe like you, that they dream with the same vividness, suffer with the same depth, or carry secrets as heavy as yours. Because truthfully, we don't know. We presume, we hope, we assume consciousness like it's a shared password, something everyone just has. But solipsism, in its rawest, most unsettling form, whispers something else. Only your mind is certain, not your mother's, not your lover's, not your best friend's. Only yours. The cashier at the store, the child crying on the street, the friend who says they understand your pain. You see them, you hear them, but do you know them? Or are they just lines of a script you forgot you wrote? We like to say we're all connected, but solipsism asks, connected to what? If you are the only conscious thread weaving the illusion, it's not about ego. It's not about thinking you're superior. It's about confronting the terrifying possibility that everything you feel, every betrayal, every embrace, every kiss, every goodbye is happening in the echo chamber of your own mind. And here's the worst part. Even if others are real, you'll still never truly escape the prison of your own perception. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. There's a certain ache that grows in the chest when the mind begins to spiral into solipsism. It is not a pain of arrogance. It is the sorrow of divinity. Because if I am the only one, then this entire world, this vivid, broken, beautiful dream, is mine alone to carry. Every laugh I hear is my mind echoing joy. Every heartbreak I see is my heart reminding me of wounds I haven't healed. And every death, a performance I must sit through to remember the truth of endings. If solipsism is real, then I am both prisoner and God, the creator and the created. I am Atlas holding up the sky of my own illusion. And suddenly, God doesn't feel like power. It feels like isolation, like standing in a room filled with people who will never, ever know you because they are all you. There's something cruel about that possibility, that love, real love, has never truly come from someone else. That every time you've been held, every time you've been seen, every time someone whispered I love you into your soul, it was your own voice, reaching back through the fabric of illusion, trying to comfort the only real mind in existence, yours. And still, even in this unbearable loneliness, there is a kind of peace. Because if you are the only one here, you are also the only one who can rewrite the story. You are the master of the dream. You are the architect of meaning. And maybe, just maybe, that's not loneliness. Maybe that's liberation. There comes a point where reality begins to tremble, not loudly, but subtly, not like an earthquake, more like a slow warping of the edges of the familiar. You hear a phrase you've heard 1,000 times before, but this time, it feels hollow, like someone pressed play on a pre-recorded loop. You start asking questions people don't know how to answer, not because they don't care, but because maybe they were never designed to. You say, "Do you ever feel like this is all a dream?" And they laugh, or blink, or say something generic like "you think too much." But that's the thing. The moment you ask that question truly, fully ask it, you can't unask it. You start to notice things. Not ghosts, not spirits, not glitches, but patterns, loops, repetitions, people who appear with new faces but the same energy, moments that feel recycled, a déjà vu that grows louder with time. And so it begins, the collapse of certainty. You stop being sure of time. You stop being sure of the world. And worst of all, you stop being sure of others. How do you know someone else has a mind behind their smile? How do you prove that love, as beautiful as it feels, was ever anything more than your own yearning, bouncing off the walls of your inner cathedral? You look at someone you once trusted with your life, and you wonder if they were just a projection, a narrative device to teach you something, only to fade once the lesson was done. It's not madness, it's clarity, because once the idea takes root, you realize you've never actually touched the world. You've only touched your perception of it. And if perception is all you have, then the world outside is just a reflection of the world inside. And suddenly, everything you thought was solid begins to dissolve. Have you ever truly stared into a mirror for longer than a moment? Not to fix your hair, not to check your face, but to see yourself, raw, unfiltered, unblinking. It's terrifying, because if you look long enough, something shifts. Your eyes become too aware. Your face becomes a mask you forgot you were wearing. And for just a second, you feel like a stranger staring back at you. Solipsism doesn't start in books or lectures. It starts here, in this sacred, silent, solitary ritual of looking into your own eyes and asking, "Is there anyone else in here but me?" The mirror never answers, but it never lies either. It just reflects what you bring to it. Joy, it shows you that. Pain, it reveals it. But beyond emotions beneath your expression, it reflects your existence. The undeniable truth that you are the only one seeing what you see. Not your partner, not your parent, not your God, just you. And maybe that's the cruelest kindness of all, that the mirror doesn't give you answers. It gives you questions wrapped in silence. And in that silence, you meet the only thing that's ever been real, yourself. You come to realize that the mirror isn't just glass. It's a metaphor, a portal, a reminder that no matter how much you love, ache, touch, scream, you are always coming back to the same place. Your mind, your private, echoing, infinite universe. And once you've seen yourself clearly, you can't go back to pretending, not with others, not with life, not even with God. Because when the mirror speaks, it says only one thing. You are all there is. Memory is a ghost town. Rows of moments preserved in amber, moments you swear were real. Because you were there. You felt them. You cried in them. You laughed so hard in them, it ached. But no one else seems to remember them the same way. Or at all. Have you ever brought up an old memory to someone you love, and their eyes go distant? They hesitate. They say, "I don't remember it like that." And something inside you dies a little. Because for a second, you realize you might be the only person in the entire universe who carries that version of reality, that memory, that day, that feeling. So you begin to ask yourself, if no one else remembers, was it ever real at all? Solipsism doesn't just isolate you from the present, it erodes your past. Because every memory is subjective. Every story you've ever told about yourself was filtered through your own lens, and every person in that story, a character who may or may not exist beyond the edges of your recall. So, what happens when memory becomes a monologue? When your childhood is just a film reel only you can play? When the people you once loved are now just shadows that only visit you in dreams? You realize, painfully, that memory is not a shared history. It is a private mythology, and you are both the storyteller and the believer, the keeper of a reality no one else can verify. And the more you try to share it, the lonelier it gets. There are nights when you wake up, drenched in the afterglow of something so vivid, so achingly real, that you forget which world you belong to. A kiss that tasted of fire, a conversation with someone who doesn't exist, a city that's never been mapped, but you knew every corner, every street lamp, like it was home. And when you open your eyes, you feel the heartbreak of loss, because the dream was realer than reality. The colors deeper, the voices truer, the feelings undeniable. So what does that mean? If your mind can build entire worlds while your body sleeps, if it can invent people you've never met and give them personalities, voices, even backstories, then who's to say it hasn't done the same thing while you're awake? Solipsism whispers, this could all be a dream, not because it's fake but because it's yours, a private simulation, a sacred illusion, a movie projected on the screen of your inner consciousness. So immersive, you forgot it wasn't shared. Have you ever had someone in a dream look at you with such knowing in their eyes that it made you question your waking life? Have you ever wept in a dream and woke up with a sore chest, as if your heart had actually broken? Then maybe, just maybe, the mind doesn't need reality to feel something real. Maybe it never did. And if that's true, if the dream world can carry truth, and the waking world can carry illusion, then which one is the dream? Which one is you? And if the answer is neither, what remains? We move through time as if it's a river. We speak of yesterday as behind us, and tomorrow as something that hasn't arrived yet. We plan, we regret, we chase memories, we fear endings. But what if none of it is real? Solipsism doesn't just isolate the self, it shatters the clock. Because if the world is an illusion of your own mind, then time is just another illusion, a narrative device, a story you tell yourself, so things don't all happen at once. Have you ever sat alone and felt time dissolve? Minutes stretch like hours, moments feel eternal, or vanish so quickly you doubt they happened at all. What if time isn't a line? What if it's a spiral, or a loop, or worse, just a sensation that your mind invented, so your experiences wouldn't overwhelm you? There are no clocks in your dreams, no calendars in your emotions. You never remember the future, but sometimes you feel it coming like thunder before the storm. So, who says this isn't a dream? Time makes promises it never keeps. It tells you you're running out, but gives no proof that it ever existed. And in the silence of solipsism, you begin to realize the only real moment is the one you are in. The only real presence is the one who perceives it. The rest, past lovers, old regrets, future hopes, they are flickers on the walls of your mind. You don't live in time. Time lives in you. If the world is a projection of your mind, then who are you? Not your name, not your body, not even your memories. Those are just bookmarks in a story. Who are you beneath it all? We walk through life thinking we are fixed, that we are someone specific. But who were you before the world told you what to be? Who were you before the first heartbreak, before the first betrayal, before the first time someone called you by name? Solipsism doesn't just ask if others are real. It asks if you are real, or if you've spent your entire life playing a character you didn't choose, in a world you don't remember building. Have you ever noticed how your voice changes, depending on who you're with, how your posture shifts, your laugh softens, your truths bend slightly, so you can stay loved, safe, understood? That isn't deception, that's survival. But it is also the great forgetting, the quiet burial of the real you, beneath 1,000 tiny masks. And so you begin to wonder, if no one else exists, if they are all parts of you, then who have you been trying to impress all these years? You are the actor, the stage, the audience, and the script. But beneath the performance, there's still something else, something wordless, something that doesn't care if it's seen or loved, something ancient and still. That is the real self, not invented, not named, not formed by culture or pain, just awareness, consciousness, the one who watches, the one who dreams. And in that space, you realize something strange and sacred. You were never trying to find yourself in others. You were trying to remember yourself through them. There is no ache like the ache of loving someone who might not exist. Solipsism steals nothing more brutally than it steals love, because love is the one thing we think proves we are not alone. It is the reaching out, the merging, the sacred intimacy of I see you and you see me too. But what if that gaze has always been your own? What if every I love you was just your own soul calling itself home? When you kissed her lips, were they hers or yours? When he held you through the dark night of your breaking, did he comfort you? Or was it your mind splitting itself into two hands just to hold you together again? Solipsism makes love unbearable because it suggests that you've never truly been touched, not by another, not in the way you hoped, that every heartbreak was a self-inflicted wound, every reunion a hallucination, every moment of connection a loop, a song your soul kept singing to itself, hoping to remember a melody it forgot long ago. And yet, love still feels real, so crushingly, divinely, terrifyingly real. You still cry at their absence. You still remember their scent in the folds of your memory. You still feel the way your chest opened when they laugh with you, like they'd known you for 1,000 lifetimes. So, what now? Is love a lie? Or is it the only real thing? Maybe solipsism doesn't destroy love. Maybe it reveals that love was never something given to you. It was something awakened in you. Maybe others were never the source, but the reflection. And maybe that's why it hurts so much when they left. Not because they vanished, but because you stopped recognizing yourself in them. There's a moment, if you follow solipsism far enough, where the ground disappears. Not metaphorically. It's not depression, not confusion. It's something deeper, something ancient, a kind of cosmic stillness, a terrifying awareness. You sit alone, in a room that no longer feels like a room, in a world that no longer feels like a world. And you think, if I am the only one, then I am God, and God is alone. This is where the road forks. One direction leads to insanity, the other to enlightenment, and the terrifying parties. They feel exactly the same. Madness says nothing is real, so nothing matters. God says everything is within me, so everything is sacred. But from the outside, it looks the same. The stillness, the detachment, the eyes that have seen too much and say too little. What separates God from madness is not power or control or miracles. It is love. Madness collapses in on itself. It devours. It isolates. It rages in a vacuum. But God creates, even in solitude, especially in solitude, because even if no one else is real, even if the universe is just a painting you forgot you were painting, you still choose what to make of it. Madness is what happens when the solipsist believes he is the only one and it makes him despair. Divinity is what happens when the solipsist believes he is the only one, and it makes him compassionate, because even if the world is just a dream, it is your dream. So dream gently, dream beautifully, dream like someone else is watching. Even if no one is, man is condemned to be free. Jean-Paul Sartre. There comes a moment, often in the quiet hours of the night, when you finally stop waiting for the call, waiting for the apology, waiting for someone to explain everything, or rescue you from the strange vacuum of your own awareness. And then it hits like a soft thunder, not loud, but final. No one is coming, not because the world is cruel, but because the world is you. The voices, the characters, the drama, they all emerge from the depths of your mind. And if no one else is truly conscious, then you are the only one who can give your life meaning. This is the unbearable weight of solipsism, not loneliness in the physical sense, but existential solitude. As Sartre once wrote, we are left alone, without excuse in a world without God or moral compass. A harsh truth, but also a liberation. You are radically free, free to collapse, free to create, free to become the sole narrator of your universe. Carl Jung once described the process of true self-awareness as a confrontation with the shadow. You come face to face with everything you projected outward, your fears, your desires, your wounds, and you take responsibility for it all. It hurts because the burden of being the only conscious entity is not just philosophical, it is spiritual. But beneath the ache, there is a stillness, a clarity. If everything is you, then everything can be healed through you, loved through you, transformed by you, because this unbearable freedom is also the purest form of power. And that's where something extraordinary begins to happen. You are not in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. Eckhart Tolle. Once the grief fades, once the silence becomes your friend, you begin to see the pattern. The people you loved were reflections of the love you forgot to give yourself. The chaos you blamed on fate was the storm inside your unexamined beliefs. The beauty you saw in others was always a glimpse of your own light, shining back at you through the fog. And in that recognition, you remember, you built all of this, from the subtle pains of childhood to the joy that cracked your chest open under summer sky. You've been the architect of it all. As Alan Watts once said, you are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. But if solipsism is true, then you are the wave and the ocean, the breath and the dreamer, the illusion and the one who breathes life into it. This is not narcissism. This is divine authorship, the realization that if everything is flowing from within you, then you can change it, rewrite it, bless it. Even Viktor Frankl, a man imprisoned in a concentration camp, understood this inner authorship. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And if solipsism is true, then your inner world is your circumstances. You are not a victim of perception. You are the composer of it. So you begin again, not out of hope for something new outside of you, but from a reverent return to the power within. You walk into the dream now as its dreamer. You enter relationships knowing they are sacred reflections. You breathe in your solitude not as punishment, but as the womb of creation. You are no longer seeking the light. You are the source. You are the one writing this story. You always have been. There is a moment quiet, unmarked, where you stop asking if this world is real and begin asking if it's mine, what will I make of it? You stop needing to prove or disprove the existence of others. You stop begging the dream to wake up. Instead, you sit with it fully awake yourself, and you begin the slow, holy work of rewriting it. This is where solipsism transforms from a void into a brushstroke. The universe becomes your canvas, and your beliefs, your inner code, become the paint. As Neville Goddard once wrote, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Not metaphorically, literally. You stop reacting to the illusion. You begin shaping it. You realize that what you believe to be true about life, about people, about love, about your worth, doesn't just sit in your mind like a passive thought. It manifests itself into form, as circumstance, as encounter, as destiny. And so you begin. You rewrite grief as transformation. You rewrite loneliness as sanctuary. You rewrite fear as the doorway that love knocks on. And not because someone outside you told you to, but because you are the one who offered the fear in the first place. That's the terrifying, beautiful truth. You are both the problem and the possibility. You don't escape the dream. You rewrite the dream. You make it holy. You make it yours. So here we are, not at the end of a theory, but at the beginning of an ancient, sacred remembering that maybe you've been alone all along. But maybe that's not a curse. Maybe that's grace. Because now, finally, you don't need the world to affirm your reality. You don't need others to mirror your worth. You don't need God to descend from the sky to validate your soul. You are already whole. You are already the light that illuminates the illusion. Like Ramana Maharshi once said, there is no creation, no destruction, no bondage, no path, no seeking, no attainment. This is the ultimate truth. It's not nihilism. It's the deepest stillness of all. You are the witness. You are the awareness that watches it all pass. And in that witnessing, you become free. You can fall in love again, not because they're real, but because love is what you are. You can dance again, not to prove your aliveness, but because you no longer need to. You exist, and that is enough, even if no one else is watching, even if the sky is just a ceiling your mind painted with stars, even if all of it, this world, this voice, this video, is just a ripple in the ocean of your own consciousness. There is peace now, not the kind that numbs, the kind that liberates. You smile not because the world smiles back, but because you finally understand you were never alone, because you are always here. You've cracked the code, you've touched the edge of madness, and found silence waiting with open arms. You've seen the mirror, stepped through it, and stood in the place where only truth survives. And maybe, after all that, the answer wasn't to escape the illusion, but to love it as your own creation. Not in arrogance, but in reverence. Because when all else falls away, you remain the awareness, the dreamer, the light behind the eyes. And that is enough. Welcome to the universe, where the only thing that's ever truly existed is you. So now, you sit here, not as the observer, not as the one who doubts, but as the origin. The veil is lifted, not with a shout, but with a whisper so ancient, it unschools the architecture of everything you once called real. There is no applause, no divine revelation, only this profound, terrifying, exquisite recognition. You are the locus, the fountainhead, the irreducible nucleus of experience, everything, all of it, not merely perceived by you, but quite possibly composed by you, not performed by others, but orchestrated by the singular continuum. That is your mind's private universe, not in ego, not in delusion, but in a sacred solitude so profound, it obliterates all need for validation. There are no more gods to appease, no more roles to perform, no more mirrors that must smile back, because you no longer need to be seen to feel real. You are not the dreamer asleep, you are the one who remembers that even the dream was holy. So, if no one else exists, create as if they do, love as if it still matters, speak beauty into the silence, not because you must be heard, but because the silence deserves to be kissed. Your solitude is no longer a prison, it is a throne, and from it, you do not command, you bless. You bless the illusion, you bless the ache, you bless the world that might never have existed, because now you see the only thing that ever mattered was that you existed at all. If this journey stirred something inside you, a memory, a question, a silence you've been carrying for too long, then don't walk away from it. Pause, reflect, and if you feel called, join this space, because here, in the universe, we don't chase noise. We listen deeper. We ask the questions most people are too afraid to hear. So, if your mind is still echoing, if your heart needs a place to breathe, subscribe, not to a channel, but to the conversation, the kind that doesn't end when the video does. And if this spoke to you, leave a comment below, not for the algorithm, but for the next wandering soul, who might need to know they're not alone in the illusion. And maybe, just maybe, they'll find their mirror in your words.